My name is Tarren, of the noble house of Olarai, son of Tarren, begat of Sequila. These are names I now carry like stones in my heart, heavy with a past that was stolen. My early years were spent cloistered within the hallowed, cool stone walls of the grand chantry. The clergy scribes, with their ink-stained fingers and patient murmurs, taught me the graceful dance of letters, the power of words. But as I approached the age of dawning, when a boy begins to glimpse the man he might become, I was dispatched to the fair, bustling city of Valoria. There I was to live under the tutelage of my uncle, Rodrin. Valoria, with its high walls of sun-bleached stone and the constant thrum of life, was a world away from the chantry's quiet reverence. Rodrin, my mother's stern but fair-minded brother, was a man carved from the very granite of the mountains. He had served as a man-at-arms for the city guard for many seasons, his shield battered, his reputation spotless. Later, he donned the chain of a constable, his wisdom and strength a bulwark against the city's shadows. It was Rodrin who taught me the brutal eloquence of the mace, the satisfying heft of it in my hand, the way its weighted head could deliver justice with a single decisive arc. He showed me how to read a fight, to anticipate an enemy's move, to turn their strength against them. But more than martial skill, it was he who instilled in me a deep, unwavering hatred for evil, a fire that would later be stoked into an inferno. For on the second solstice of my 15th cycle, a day that should have been marked by feasting and light, I witnessed the most horrid of events, an atrocity that clawed its way into my soul and has nested there ever since. A runner, breathless and spattered with mud, his face a mask of terror, brought the calamitous news. His words tumbled out, ragged and choked. An army of undead, a shambling tide of horrors, was fast approaching my father's lands, the ancestral holdings of Olarai. My blood ran cold. Rodrin's face, usually a bastion of calm, hardened into a grim mask. Without a word, we moved. Horses were saddled with practiced speed, provisions hastily gathered. We rode post-haste, pushing our mounts and ourselves to the limits of endurance, the dread a constant spur at our backs. The journey was a grim fortnight of pounding hooves and unspoken fears. Each sunrise painted the sky with hues of blood and ash, omens we tried to ignore. We spoke little, the urgency a tight band around our chests. The closer we drew to Olarai, the more the land itself seemed to mourn. The vibrant greens of the fields gave way to a sickly, muted pallor. The air grew heavy, carrying a faint, sweetish tang of decay that turned my stomach. As we rode up the familiar dusty road, the one I'd traveled countless times in happier days, and rounded the final bend, all my unspoken, half-formed nightmares coalesced into a scene of utter devastation. Ahead, where the proud manor of House Olarai should have stood, a monstrous pyre raged against the twilight sky. The family house was ablaze, spitting embers and black smoke like a dying beast. The service cottages, the homes of families who had served mine for generations, were completely decimated by fire, their charred skeletons stark against the inferno. Tears welled, hot and stinging, blurring the horrific tableau that was etching itself permanently into my mind. This was not just destruction. It was a violation. Suddenly, the world exploded. A crushing blow slammed into my side, ripping me from my saddle as if I were a child's doll. Reality fractured, then dissolved into a suffocating blackness. It must have been mere moments I was unconscious, yet it felt like a small, dark eternity. A pocket of void where peace, a perverse and unwelcome guest, seemed to settle. When my eyes fluttered open, the world was a distorted, swimming canvas of pain and smoke, I could barely see. My left eye was either swollen shut or filled with blood. I couldn't tell, nor did I care. Through my one good eye, I saw a hulking monstrosity, a nightmare given form, bearing down on my uncle. Tarren, ever the warrior, stood his ground, his shield raised, his warhammer a glint of defiance in the hellish light. The creature. I had seen Edens before, the common risen dead, usually dragged into the village square by triumphant guardsmen for public destruction. This was no mere Eden. This was a demon given flesh, or rather, given a mockery of it. Parts of its body were horrifyingly translucent, revealing exposed, blackened ribs and organs that lay lifeless and gray within its cage of bone. Yet it moved with an awesome, unholy power and a terrifying agility. Its multiple limbs, some ending in razor claws, others in bludgeoning bone, thrashed with malevolent intent. Two grotesque heads, perched on a single thick neck, swiveled independently, their eyes burning with a hateful orange luminescence. Demons be damned. The words were a hoarse rasp, torn from my own throat, a cry of defiance against the abyss. I had to do something. Tarren's shield, stout oak banded with iron, buckled with a sickening crack under one of the monster's demolishing blows. He staggered, his arm surely broken. Pain was a distant roar, adrenaline a raging river. I clambered to my feet, the heavy armor a torturous encumbrance. Ignoring the fire in my ribs, I let out a guttural yell, a sound more animal than human, and broke into a full charge. My mace, the silver inlaid head a gift from Tarren, whirled above my head, a gleaming harbinger of retribution. One of its foul heads, with eyes like burning coals, turned and noticed my desperate approach. It swung a massive clawed arm, a blur of motion, aimed to swat me like an insect, but rage lent me speed. I dropped low, the wind of its passage ruffling my hair, and smashed the spiked head of my mace into its nearest knee joint. A brilliant display of yellow and white sparks flew as the blessed silver connected with the unhallowed bone and sinew of the foul beast. My uncle had prepared me well. Silver, he'd said, was anathema to many creatures of darkness. The monster reeled, a shriek tearing from its twin throats, a sound that was both agony and fury. I had crushed its entire joint. The leg buckled, twisted at an unnatural angle. It started to fall, a slow-motion toppling of corrupted might. I quickly rolled, instinct taking over, scrambling out of the way as the behemoth tumbled groundward with the force of a felled ancient oak. As one of its heads writhed and snapped in pain, the other was now low enough, exposed. Tarren, though injured, seized the opportunity. With a roar that mirrored my own, he brought his warhammer down in a two-handed arc. His knuckles were white where he clenched the haft. The hammer struck one of the beast's heads full on, with a sound like a melon dropped from a great height, followed by a wet, explosive crunch. I closed my eyes in the nick of time, yet was still showered with a drenching of gore, thick, black, and viscous, that smelled like ox dung, mixed with something far more ancient and fetid. The beast, or what was left of it, twitched once, then fell still, its unnatural light extinguished. Silence, heavy and ringing, descended. Tarren and I, breathing heavily, slick with sweat and ichor, exchanged a single grim look. No words were needed. We regained what little composure we could muster, and rushed towards the still-burning house, a desperate hope warring with an overwhelming sense of dread. Upon closer approach, staggering through the smoldering debris, I saw what I wished to the gods I could unsee, what no son should ever witness. There, nailed to the great oaken doors of the main hall, or what remained of them, were the bodies of my father, Darien, and my mother, Sakila. Desecrated, crucified. Their faces, once so full of life and love, were contorted in a silent, eternal scream. The sorrow was a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. It was overwhelming, a tidal wave threatening to drown me. The tears wanted to fall, to offer some release, but they did not. They froze, solidifying into something harder, colder. Sorrow, in that instant, transmuted into a hatred so pure, so potent, it burned away every other feeling. My gaze fell upon a lifeless hulk of another undead creature nearby, a lesser ghoul perhaps, its jaw slack. Blind rage consumed me. I lunged at it, my mace rising and falling, each blow a scream of anguish, each impact a testament to my loss. I beat it until it was no longer discernible as anything more than a pulped mass of bone and rotten flesh, the silver of my mace stained dark. It was then, amidst the carnage and my own crumbling sanity, that hope, a fragile and unexpected glimmer, pierced the darkness. A faint voice, a whimper, almost lost in the crackle of flames and the pounding of my own blood. The sound emanated from a pile of rotting corpses, stacked haphazardly near the stables, about 30 feet away. With a shared glance of desperate urgency, my uncle and I rushed towards the area, our hearts hammering. Tarren, despite his injuries, moved with a grim resolve. There, half buried beneath the dead, his small body pressed against the scorched barn wall, was my younger brother, Yulin. He was alive, if only barely. His face was pale as death, streaked with soot and blood, but his eyes, when they flickered open, held a spark of defiance. Clutched in his left hand was the severed, leering head of a ghoul, its dead eyes wide with surprise. In his right, impossibly, he gripped my father's longsword, its blade dark with dried gore. He had almost given his life, this brave child, in a futile attempt to defend our family. Tarren, his own pain forgotten, gently pulled Yulin free. He tore strips from his own cleanest undertunic, fashioning crude bandages to compress the deepest of Yulin's wounds. As we were carefully moving Yulin, supporting his limp form between us, back towards where our horses had thankfully remained, tethered and unharmed, a loud clatter echoed from around the perimeter of the estate. Orcs, their guttural shouts and the clang of crude weaponry, were unmistakable. No doubt drawn by the flames, moving in to loot and pillage what remained of House Olare. There was no time for grief, no time for anything but survival. Quickly we mounted our steeds, Tarren hoisting Yulin before him. With one last agonizing look at the burning pyre that had once been my home, we spurred our horses and raced back towards Valoria, the howls of the orcs fading behind us. The life of my brother, the only precious thing we had salvaged from the wreckage of our lives. I went back to that place, that haunted, hallowed ground, many cycles later. The fires had long since died. Nature, indifferent to human tragedy, had begun its slow reclamation. The only thing that remained, a stark monument to my stolen past, was the soot-stained masonry of the old hearth, the heart of our home. To this day, I have yet to shed a single tear since that accursed night. Those demonic creations, those architects of my despair, have done something to me, something deep and irrevocable. They have scoured me hollow, leaving behind only the cold, hard resolve of vengeance, the warmth of my youth, the easy laughter, the gentle teachings of the chantry, all consumed in the flames of Olare. But I vow this, by the desecrated memory of my parents and the courage of my brother, they will repay me. For every drop of blood spilled, for every moment of joy stolen, for every nightmare they have gifted me, they will repay. My grief has become my strength, my hatred my guide, and I will not rest until every last one of their kind feels the chilling eloquence of my mace,